And last but no, most certainly not least are the big boys up front, the offensive line. This group, I feel for these guys. When the team's going well and everything's going right and offense is, putting up 40 plus points a game, these guys don't get mentioned as much. And when things aren't going wrong and the quarterback's getting pressured, who's the first one to get blamed? Offensive line. So they're not always the guys that get talked about the most or get the most notoriety. But, I mean, it's critical for you to have teams that in the seasons that people want and to really win those battles, not just in like the non-conference, but in the big conference games and then to win in the postseason. So obviously this year, like this team, it just was not what they wanted to be. And when we're rotating a lot of guys, three different centers, you're having to start a true freshman on the interior against Georgia, who had 15 defensive players drafted in the first, I think overall. It's some insane numbers like I think 7 in the first round or something, or 5 in the first round. So I'm excited for these guys to have gotten more reps. You have Jordan McFadden, who's a preseason all ACC player, and one of the best offensive linemen in the country. Have him at left tackle. You could move him around a little bit, but I like putting a guy like that on the outside. So we'll see what that they have Putnam at center, and so I think that will be a good just having that consistency. You have Marcus Tate. I think as a freshman, he really got thrown into the fire, and I think you'll see an improved play from him on the interior. And I think that's the focus. Obviously you want the outside protect the quarterback's blind side especially, but that interior just has to get a better push. If you want, like I was saying earlier with running backs, this Clemson offense especially, you have to establish the running game because it sets up everything else to be complementary of each other. So if you can establish the interior, not that you have to get a pancake or push these guys all the way back, but if you can continue to get those 3 and 4 yard pushes to break open to let the running back make the second level and third level have to be the ones to make those tackles versus just a defensive lineman, that's big. And it can turn a no yard gain to a 3 yard gain and 3 to 6 and those type of things. And you make manageable third downs and you feel more confident in those short third yard gains. It's like, we're going to run the ball. We're going to run the ball and try to stop us because we like our guys against your guys. Hat on hat, are we just going to beat you? And I feel good about that. I think, offensive line has really been a position where of trying to be development. And you're seeing with Thomas Austin, he's getting recruits. He's just a new face, a new energy. And I think we're going to see some of that just across the board when it comes to different parts of the offense. But I just think, especially with a guy like Thomas Austin, I'm excited to see what he can do with this. And they like being able to rotate guys and having those fresh bodies. And I'm hearing 9 to 10 players who can play on the offensive line, and that's big, especially with how many injuries this group unfortunately had. And then you have a guy like Walker Parks, and you're expecting him to start at right tackle, but it sounds like Blake Miller in fall camp has just been killing it as a freshman. So you're like, well, you want to put, if you're gonna have a freshman, the preference, and they didn't have this option last year, is you want to put. I like the idea of having Miller on the outside on the tackle position and a little bit more of his natural position. As a freshman, I'm hearing different guys freshman offensive line. You want them just to focus on the one position versus trying to think of all these different things. And so moving Parks on the inside, I think it's just better for the team. And so this group, I think, I'm just excited for them and just